All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're decoding what I can only describe as an entirely unhinged, Dadaist masterpiece, the violent absurdities of Dyson Reynolds' Flying Circus. You know, sometimes exploring the absolute boundaries of narrative chaos is the best way to understand storytelling itself. When you're confronted with a text that actively defies logic, narrative structure, and even the laws of physics, the best way to comprehend it is to just map it out. And that is exactly what we are going to do today. It really begs the question, what exactly happens when Peppa Pig, Pulp Fiction, and a whole bunch of 90s pop culture collide in a complete surrealist fever dream? Well, to figure that out, we're going to chronologically track the sheer chaotic momentum of this script from start to finish. We're treating its sudden violence, its baffling celebrity cameos, and its completely random geographical vendettas with the utmost academic seriousness. Because honestly, when a text is this wild, structure is our only anchor. Section 1. The Medical Mishap Escapade, Paul Rudd and the Quick Lunch. We kick things off with what seems like a totally standard medical procedure featuring none other than Jennifer Aniston. But oh boy, it escalates instantly into this deeply illogical, fast-paced chain of events for Paul Rudd's character, who, by the way, is identified in the source simply as a guy. So first up, he gets a shot from quote-unquote Dr. Jennifer Aniston and just starts screaming profanities. Next, in a completely unexplained fit of rage, he kills a shave ice baby. Obviously, right? Well, in immediate retaliation for this, he is hunted down and injured by a great Minnesota shape in the sky. Desperate, he flees all the way to Norway, thinking he's finally found safety. And then he orders a Quick Lunch chocolate bar, which promptly falls out of the actual sky and violently destroys him. It is literally a masterclass in narrative whiplash. Now, what's truly mind-boggling here is how the script abruptly frames that whole horrific continent-hopping saga we just walked through. Suddenly we realize we are actually sitting in Peppa Pig's bedroom. Daddy Pig is telling this violently absurd story as a bedtime story to soothe Peppa. And it wraps up with this completely baffling quote. So go back to sleep, you have school tomorrow, and at school, they're going to teach you how to kill Meg Ryan. The educational objective of Peppa Pig's preschool is suddenly the targeted assassination of 90s rom-com royalty. You just can't make this up. And we really need to ground ourselves in the script-specific lore for a second, because we have to treat this completely nonsensical airborne threat as a formal academic concept. So, the Minnesota shape in the sky. What is it? It's officially defined as a celestial geographical entity dispatched by vengeful shave ices to relentlessly hunt down the murderer of a shave ice baby. Why Minnesota? Why shave ice? The script absolutely refuses to elaborate. It just demands that we accept this bizarre system of airborne geographical retribution and move right along. Section 2. A Taste of John Candy. The commercial break. Right as we're trying to process that lore, the titular host, Dyson Reynolds, abruptly interrupts his own violent narrative to pitch a commemorative soda, and it's honoring the late comedic actor John Candy, who passed away back in 1994. Dyson basically holds up this can with the actor's face plastered on it and declares, "Drink it, and you'll taste John Candy's Canadian soul. Out now." It adds this totally bizarre, slightly morbid layer of product placement right smack in the middle of our story. It's super jarring, but honestly, it successfully keeps us wildly off balance. Section 3. The Vincent Vega Bank Heist. An Identity Crisis. We then transition immediately into this violently chaotic bank transaction, featuring a notoriously confused hitman straight out of Pulp Fiction, Vincent Vega. Now, the crucial point here is the massive contrast between what Vincent expects and what actually goes down. Obviously, for standard currency in an American bank, he wants to see George Washington's face, right? But instead, the bank teller inexplicably hands him $1943, featuring the face of Monty Python's John Cleese. Why? Well, the employee helpfully notes that 1943 is the year John Cleese was born. As you'd guess, Vincent's absolute outrage at finding a British comedian where George Washington should be sets the perfect stage for the utter absurdity that follows. And just look at the systematic sensory overload we're dealing with in this scene. It's this messy, random assortment of late 90s pop culture dropped right into the middle of a bank robbery. Audio-wise, we have the song Someday by Sugar Ray randomly blasting on the bank speaker system. Then there's the currency, those strange 1943 John Cleese dollars we just talked about. And for stolen goods, as employee number 2 flees for his absolute life, he randomly decides to grab a DVD of the 1996 Pamela Anderson movie Barbed Wire and a Coca-Cola bottle. It is literally a highly specific late 90s time capsule violently injected into the chaos. But what actually sets off the extreme violence in this bank? It all boils down to the number 14. That represents the wildly excessive number of shots Vincent Vega fires directly into the first employee's belly. And the reason for this brutal attack? I literally cannot make this up. The employee just made the simple mistake of calling Vincent by his real-world actor's name, John Travolta. Vincent explicitly warns him not to do it. The employee repeats, "Mr. Travolta," and boom, Vincent unleashes 14 shots. The employee yells out "Dollar," toothless hoot before collapsing to the ground, all while Sugar Ray just cheerfully continues to play in the background.
Section 4. The Billy Madison Sequel, a cinema trailer.
Those disjointed transitions strike again, cutting us abruptly from the bank straight into a movie trailer. And if we walk through these plot points, we can plainly see the escalating aggression and bizarre cinematic aspirations going on here. Let's break it down. First off, the trailer is being presented on a flat TV held up by two anthropomorphic gophers, who, for some reason, perfectly resemble Jack Black and Burt Reynolds. Okay, next on the actual screen, Adam Sandler's character Billy Madison is shown violently stomping on Oscar-winning actor Benicio del Toro. Del Toro is begging him to stop, and his reason is incredibly specific. He wants to live so he can play a, quote, pinch a snake in the story of the Little Prince. Finally, a narrator cheerfully announces the release date as December 17th. It's just this unhinged collage of completely unrelated Hollywood elements smashed together with extreme hostility. Section 5. Conclusion. Wrapping up the circus. So, we wrap up our chronological breakdown as the script actually attempts to close the loop on its own absurdity. The outro music is specifically noted as "Hail Minnesota" playing as the scene ends. And you know, this musical choice actually directly calls back to the Great Minnesota Shape in the Sky from Paul Rudd's earlier timeline. It is one of the very, very few moments of internal consistency in the entire script, heavily rewarding anyone who has been paying close attention to these weird geographical breadcrumbs throughout our explainer today. And I'll leave you with Dyson Reynolds' actual deeply confusing sign-off. He announces that episode 2 is coming next Tears Dog or Saturday, which kind of prompts us all to wonder, how could a script this unhinged possibly follow up this performance? Does Meg Ryan actually survive Peppa Pig's school curriculum? Does Benicio del Toro get his Little Prince role? And honestly, which day is Tears Dog anyway? It forces us to question the very boundaries of narrative logic itself. So what do you think is the real method behind this absolute madness? Thanks for diving into this brilliantly structured chaos with me.